What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews, and I am Nick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I'm here very giddy today because I'm joined by not just Jason from the Friday the 13th series, the quintessential Jason from the Friday the 13th series, Mr. C.J. Graham. What is up, sir? How are you today?
Hey, Scene Snobs, what's going on? Yeah, I'm very appreciative to be here. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely, and I thank you so much for being on the show. Your movie is my favorite in the series and one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I think it's the best, of course, of the franchise. And you
tell all the Jasons the same story, don't you?
I wish I could say I did, but no, it's C.J. Graham, and I have plenty of posts to back that up.
Thank you. I appreciate your support and your backing it, buddy.
Well, I think the big thing about it, for me, just to talk about Friday for a few, they had such a great run till 5, and 5 is a good movie. I like it, for what it is. But you came back and you are Jason. Like that's the Jason that everybody thinks about and remembers. It's almost like the Frankenstein version of Jason, comes back from the dead. And I got to ask, so there was a big break between 4 and 6, and you had to step in and fill these shoes of Jason, who hasn't been seen in a while. What was it like? How did you go about that?
Well, I was very fortunate. You got to realize part 6 was, in some regards, looking back on it, not knowing at the time, but looking back on it, was the launching platform for Jason to be the predator, the principal in the movie, versus, your camp counselors and all the kids getting murdered. All of a sudden, Jason comes back, as you indicated, like Frankenstein. Now he has become just indestructible, just powerful as can be, and kind of like the Frankenstein concept, like you just said, that, being brought together like Frankenstein, you're thinking of the connectivity of the brain cells. And if you go back to the Universal movies, when Franken came back to life, they looked at him and he started thinking. He started giving curiosity tilts of his head, and he started to react a little differently. And I think that was the same platform for Friday the 13th Part 6 that Tom McLaughlin put together.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think a really cool part of it too, coming back and making Jason this unstoppable force, because before he almost felt like a kind of like a hunter out there, like you never really saw him until it was last minute. But when it comes to part 6, you were very much there. It wasn't sneaking around. It wasn't POV. Like, we see you moving, and it's a
and I think Tom McLaughlin, the writer director, I think that was part of his creativity. And I was very fortunate that part 6 launched Jason from that format. And again, looking back on it, we didn't know what we were doing. 30 years later, or 3 decades, and we're having this conversation. For me, it's just it's an honor, number one, but it's more impressive the longevity of the Friday the 13th. The Legion of fans is worldwide. You may not sit around the coffee machine at work and talk about Friday the 13th, but if somebody brings up Friday the 13th or has a hockey mask on their car window, or says, "Oh my God, it's Friday the 13th," people systematically start talking about Jason as a unit. And you look at people going, "I had no idea." It is a very conversational piece. Families talk about it. I remember when my mom and dad made me watch it, and it scared the bejeebies out of me all my life. I love Jason. And you kind of look back and go, wow, that's really cool. I mean, who knew, wearing a hockey mask, 30 years plus later, that we'd be talking about Jason.
Yeah, and I don't think it's become such a part of an iconic part of Americana. I think that there is no way Jason will not be talked about. It doesn't matter if they ever make a movie again. That franchise is so huge. And it was almost done with until 6 came around, and everybody I've ever talked to always says 6 is their favorite.
Well, 6 is, again, I use it as a launching platform, resurrection, and Tom McLaughlin made sure that Jason basically became the principal of the series at that point. And the cool thing about 6, you got to remember, it's the only one that has a James Bond opening.
Yeah.
It's the only one that comes back to life like Frankenstein. And it's the only one that has a rock and roll Hall of Famer, Alice Cooper, doing the music. And last but not least, I get to wear a Batman utility belt. Come on.
Yeah.
Think about it.
It's so crazy to me too, because you were dressed very much like a hunter in that movie. But it wasn't so much that you were a hunter. You were the Force, I would say. Like you weren't kind of behind the tree hiding. Like you were out there in your face, especially the paintball scene, which to me, and I wanted to always ask this, and I'm talking to the perfect person for it. That scene always seems like to kind of come not out of place. I love it, and I'm so glad it's in the movie. But with the main story, it kind of seems to like segue into it. Was that something that was added later?
No, actually, the paintball scene where you see Jason getting hit in the midsection with the paintballs is not my midsection. A lot of people just assume that I'm wearing padding because, I mean, friggin' paintballs hurt. Yeah. But it is not my scene that I was involved in. And as far as deviation, no, that's just where they got the idea of a little bit of comedy. I mean, when you go to the last kill near the end where the caretaker looks at the camera and says, people have a strange idea of entertainment. That was part of the charisma that Tom McLaughlin put into it. Tom was told, as I'm told by Tom, that Frank Mancuso Jr. said, you can have some comedy, but don't make fun of Jason. Mm-hmm. And none of it really makes fun of Jason. It's just Jason becomes the ultra force. And then some of the kids, the counselors, become the comical force with some of the comments, like the kids saying, so what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, that's such... that would I mean the comedy in it does really work, and I think that is the fun part about it. And we had actually on one of my shows this week we had a conversation about that. Horror comedies, they don't work unless you take the horror seriously, and that is
exactly. And I think part 6, again, being fortunate to be part of that team, the actors and actresses I worked with were very pleasurable. For me, it was an honor to work with them. It was my first time doing a movie. So I was really green, and they were very professional and allowed me, in some cases, to really pick their bodies up and throw them around. And I didn't get hurt, thank goodness. None of them got hurt. I didn't hurt anybody when I was doing stunts with them and picking them up and throwing them around like rag dolls. There was a trust factor. So it really worked out well for all of us. And I'm blessed to see some of those folks at conventions now and then, coming out signing autographs. Tom Matthews, Tom McLaughlin, Alice Cooper, etc.
Nice, yeah. And so I actually wanted to kind of take it back to the beginning of this. So you were a nightclub for Jason, like, correct?
Right. I was a general manager of a nightclub in Los Angeles, rather large. It held about 1,800 people, 15,000 square feet. And on Thursdays, I had a hypnotist show, and the hypnotist decided to bring in a production company to shoot his show of the subjects on stage. And it just happens that production company was a special effects company that did part 4. They had a crazy idea to have Jason come through the screen and scare the subjects while they're under hypnosis. And they had the wardrobe from Ted White, and they said, let's just put CG in it. Look at, he's huge. And when I say this, the rest is history. It is. Here we are 3 decades later talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for you, like, what was that like to, because I mean, who Jason is, what Friday the 13th is. I mean, it was the 80s personified, pretty much. So stepping in, like they come to you, what are you thinking at that moment?
Well, for me, you got to realize it was my first time ever doing it. I had no intent to be an actor or a stuntman. When I did it, it was the first time I'd ever done stunts. So everything you see, the stunts I did are me. It's crazy because, again, not having any knowledge, everything was OJT, on the job training. And I'm fortunate enough that I feel I did a good job. And my stunt coordinator, Michael Nomad, kept me alive. And I didn't hurt anybody. That's more important to me. And Tom McLaughlin was, happy with the product, as was Frank Mancuso Jr. at Paramount Studios.
Yeah, and so so you do Friday the 13th, and you also got to work with Alice Cooper too directly, which had to be awesome, correct? How big?
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to see Alice Cooper. Maybe in the last few years that I've done a convention here and there. We just did one a year ago, and of course, 2020 is a very odd year, to say the least. But I saw him about a year ago. We did a show somewhere up, I think, in Kentucky, and I actually put the wardrobe on, and we did photos with the fans, and we've done it a few times now. So hopefully next year we can get back in the grind, and we can find some reason that we can get out there and stay healthy, and we'll start these conventions, and we can get what will be or what can be normalcy back to our lives.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all for that once we can get there. So, kind of like with the going forward though. So you were, you said you had no real intent to get into acting and such. Now you do this movie. It's a big hit. It's Friday the 13th. Where do you? I mean, how does your life change after that?
Really, Friday the 13th has really taken off after the fact. In 1986. Your top movie, if I recall, was Top Gun.
Yeah.
So the competitive force out there was a little different, and the fan base has grown dramatically over the years. It's been passed generationally down. I have young people come up to me that are 7 years old at a convention and get an autograph, and in wardrobe, and people that are 70 years old. So the magnetism has grown over the years. Back then, it wasn't, well, okay, I did it. I mean, you have to realize I went back and I went ahead at the time. I was running a nightclub for Jackie Collins. That's Joan Collins' sister, and Oscar Lerman. It was called the Original Tramp of London in the Beverly Center in Beverly Hills. It was a private nightclub and a restaurant. And what I mean by that is you had to go through 2 locked doors to get in, and you had to be approved by the owners. So membership was like, Stallone, Prince, Tom Jones, and the list goes on. So I went back and went into my business, and then I realized, hey, you've got this card. I met some people, Screen Actors Guild, and I started doing commercials. I was fortunate enough to get some nationals. I did some AT&T, Colgate, Gatorade, Miller. And then I just went ahead about a year and a half, 2 years later, I did Highway to Hell. I played Hell Cop.
Oh, yeah.
I realize I am 6'3", 250, give or take. That's not the norm. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger on his best day is 6'2", 230 when he was Mr. Universe. So most actors don't want to be standing next to me, to be fair. I mean, because if I stand next to Tom Cruise, what is he, 5'8"?
If that.
Alone is 5'10" and a half. So Prince was barely 5 foot. You see what I'm saying? So to be fair, I wasn't really the lead that you wanted to stand next to. Now, here we are in 2020, and you see The Rock out there, Dwayne Johnson, big man. You've seen some other big men come out there and have taken that a change a little bit. But then you have to go ahead and stock everybody around you that are of the same size for equality. So it's changed a lot. But I was very fortunate. And what I did, what I did was after about 1991, 92, actually, I decided to go back in the gaming industry, and I went back to Las Vegas. And from that point, I went into being all the way through the executive management of general manager to chief operating officer. I worked for Caesars, the Flamingo, Steve Wynn, George Maloof at the Palms. I ran a couple mega resorts in California. And then about 3 years ago, I retired.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And so, I mean, now you're working on your horse farm, correct? So that's got.
I have a ranch in Montana. I have horses, I have alpacas, and I have bees. And I do go out and do conventions. That's my part-time job, I call it, my fun job. Earlier this year, before we shut down, I did a movie called 13 Fanboy. It's the lead is Dee Wallace, and Corey Feldman is in it, Laura Park Lincoln, Kane Hodder, Deborah Voorhees. And it is ready to go. I just don't know how they're going to do the distribution or where they're going to make distribution until we get a little further into it. But then about a little over a year ago, I did a fan film called Friday the 13th Vengeance, which I grew my beard for about 4 months, and I played Jason Voorhees' father, Elias Voorhees. And it's been so successful that they've asked me if I would entertain coming back in 2021 for Bloodline, in which Elias Voorhees will, of course, take another lead in it with Jason Brooks, who plays Jason.
I am 100% going to watch that tonight. And I hope you come back and do Bloodlines. That sounds amazing. I know the father storyline was something that Tom McLaughlin wanted to work with originally, and then I guess they cut it out. That was sort of a decision from on top, I guess, from what I've read.
Yeah, Tom has always had that in his storyboards, they're called. And you may or may not know that Tom has been out there verbally in the last year and a half talking about he has put together a new script. He is trying to float it with the Hollywoods and hopefully to see if Mr. Cunningham and Mr. Miller, the two entities that have rights, will come together and give him an opportunity to put it out there. And, he's got a new script. It's pretty unique. And I really do wish him well in it, because for him to come back and do Friday the 13th, part 13, and that he has been well recognized for doing part 6 and basically the launching platform of the Jason series. I wish him well on that.
Yeah, that would be great to see, especially to come back and still stay within the same storyline,
Right.
I would love to see the franchise continue. Now, I do have a question. It might be a Mandela effect, but my best friend and I, who host another show, we've always said this. As long we've known each other 25 years, but nobody remembers it. Did you do an American Express commercial?
No.
Or no? Is it the okay?
It's real simple. I can tell you the commercials I did. I did Colgate, Gatorade, AT&T, Miller Beer. So I'm very confident in the ones that I did do.
Oh no, I meant remember, because in the movie there was you killed
American Express card.
Yeah, the American Express card, and I could swear Jason Never Leaves Home Without It was a commercial, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, it didn't exist. You were having LSD, delusional memory lapse. The whole idea of that in that era, 86, Never Leave Home Without It was a big commercial icon for American Express. So Tom thought he would put that laughable in there where it floats down the puddle, and she's dead and she never left home without it.
Okay, so maybe I got my wires crossed and somebody said something, but I'm going to stick with the LSD thing.
Yeah, I always take the drugs, and if it doesn't work, Fifth Amendment always works.
That's great advice. Sound advice from Mr. CJ Grant. So I'd like to, we had a great conversation, and I'd like to ask a couple of fun questions to kind of wrap things up, if that works for you.
Sure.
One, I'd love to hear, what are some of your favorite horror movies? I mean, you're Jason Voorhees. We got to hear what you like.
Well, I've always leaned towards and favored Friday the 13th Part 6 personally, and I didn't know there were others out there after that. I thought that was the only. Well, you've confused me now. I didn't know there were others. I guess I'm going to have to go to my Netflix and start watching.
Yeah,
I personally am a horror fan of the, Universal monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolf, that era. I really think those are really dramatic and cool. And I think that's the flavor that Friday the 13th brings to the screen, as does a Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or Leatherface. There's the originality of that could really happen. When you look at those black and whites without all the camera special effects, when you look at a Friday the 13th and there's no green screen, there's no flying, and that's all great, a form of entertainment. But when you see Jason or Michael Myers standing in a window, that's some freaky shit. I mean, when you think about that, it's like that. You could look out. Do you know who's behind you right now? You better turn around.
You better turn around.
See what I'm saying? I mean, that stuff freaks you out. It's original, but it's real. Yeah. To jump on an airplane, land on a tank, and do a somersault, and jump on your feet and start shooting a gun, that's cool entertainment. Don't misconstrue. A lot of work, a lot of stunts, a lot of athletic people doing it. However, the simplicity of a Friday the 13th, the originality of a Michael Myers, the Leatherface coming out of a cave with a power saw, that's scary. And that's something going down the street. You get a flat tire in a dark area and you're looking across the pasture, that freaks you out.
That is, those shadowy figures that just are ready to get you at any moment. Absolutely. But they're also fun. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and Jason, they're all about it. Like, it's the hockey mask. I'm not going to lie.
But see, that's the simplicity of it. You can take and put Anybody, I don't care your physical status, boy, girl, tall, short, medium, whatever. Put them in a pair of coveralls, pair of boots, and a hockey mask, and they drop into character immediately. They no longer feel like they're the small person on the block. All of a sudden, they become this dominating force naturally, and it's just a natural reaction. It's interesting when you think about it. You know, in my day doing these films, nobody wanted to wear a mask. Oh, no, I want them to see my face, right? Yeah. However, the last 10 years, the most successful films, if I'm correct, are all DC movies, Marvels. Everybody's wearing a mask. Arrow, you know, you look at all of these people with their masks. I don't care if it's Supergirl. I don't care if it's one of the other characters. They all have a mask on all of a sudden. It's like cool to wear a mask. Now, they don't all wear a full mask, but some do. Yeah. You know, some put hoods on, some put actual hockey mask on now in some of the movies that you're seeing out there, and they're actually taking that hockey mask to another level as, you know, villains and heroes out there with their AR-15s and their 203 grenade launchers in movies.
Yeah, you're right. The simplicity of it does. I mean, I think it shines through. And like I said, it keeps that iconic character in Americana. Because like you go and see a Marvel movie.
Correct.
Now it's called Friday the 13th, but you go see a Jason movie. You know, that's what people are going to see when we're going to see the new Jason movie. That's what we're going to see.
Correct.
And it's been like that since the second one. You know, once it became Jason, but with this. And I love that you speak so highly of horror and that you're such a fan of it. When you go to the conventions, I wonder, like, is there? There's got to be moments where, like, maybe Robert Englund is there, or you know, Kane Hodder, and it's just like, how often do you guys get pitted together? Even though I'm sure you guys are all friends.
I get an opportunity to see everybody at the conventions. It's great. I don't see them on a regular basis because every convention is a little different with the substance. I did a convention a year ago with Alice Cooper, and next to Alice Cooper was the Fonz, and next to the Fonz was William Shatner, and across was Lou Ferrigno. I mean, and you're looking around, the karate guys are over there, and you're just like, okay, what am I doing here? You know, I put a hockey mask on. It's a humbling experience. You know, I do see Kane, I do see Derek Mears, Ari, at a show here and there, or some of the cast from my film or from other films like, Freddy Krueger films. You'll see some of the people and you'll see some folks from Michael Myers. Now, the nice thing about it is it's a very exclusive, humble group of folks. They're all great, you know, and you get a chance to meet other people from other types of characters. You go a couple rows over at a convention and there's 2-3 rows of wrestlers, female and male. And a couple roles, you go over even further, and there are people that are writing comics and doing stories and autographing their comic books. So it's really become a cohesive group of folks. It's just not horror per se. It's a little bit of everything entertainment-wise. And you know what's great about it is you can go to a convention, regardless if the word horror convention, Comic-Con, or just convention. Everybody is having a good time. You see people walk by in a blue uniform, blue faces. You see people walk by Darth Vader. Then there goes a Jason. And then all of a sudden there goes a guy and a wife in a suit and tie, just got off work. And everybody's having a great time. So it's a very universal slogan of people that get into not just the Friday the 13th and the conventions, but the others. Like I said, you go there and there's Alice Cooper or there's the Fonz from Happy Days. They're a very special group of people. I'm very humbly appreciative to even be in the ranks, let alone under the same roof with these people.
Well, you 100% deserve to be at the table, absolutely. And we are fans, and I know we speak a lot because we're geeks here, all of us at the Scene Snobs. You know, all the hosts and everything. We speak out as kids who grew up in the 80s and 90s. This is stuff we couldn't do. You know, you couldn't really read comic books at school. You couldn't talk about horror movies. Everybody thought you were weird or this, that, and the other thing. I love seeing that it's so open now. I love that it's so embraced, everything. So, and everybody embraces it. I sign on to Facebook and I see 12 people who used to fight with me in school to pick on me. now embracing it because of their kids. And I'm glad that they are, because now the kids can go forward and learn this stuff.
Yeah, there's a commonality with it that really breaks down a lot of walls socially. Mm-hmm. I had a young lady come to me last year, and she was getting an autograph. And what do you do, ma'am? Oh, I'm a colonel in the United States Air Force. Really? I said, well, what are you going to do with this picture? She goes, I'm going to put it behind my desk at work. And I'm thinking, now, how would you like to go see your commander, and you're a private or a sergeant, and she, the colonel, has a photograph of Jason on the backside autographed? I mean, odd, but it lets them know the human side of that colonel, and sometimes opens up communication and dialogue.
Yeah, that's a great quality for, to put forth with leadership, I'm sure, in the military especially. So that's so cool. And it's so awesome that that it's so embraced, and that you guys do this for us. Because you really are. You're doing it for us, and it's so fantastic to that you reach out to the fans like this. So I appreciate it. And, yeah.
Right. I think one thing that I'll tell you that's interesting about being Friday the 13th, being Jason, I always use an example that India has 1.3 billion people. Mm-hmm. And if you take a picture of Tom Cruise over there, they're all going to know, Tom Cruise. Yeah. Unequivocally, Tom Cruise. You show them a picture of C.J. Graham, they're going to shrug their shoulders. However, if you flip it over to a picture of a hockey mask with Jason, they'll all say, Jason, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It's a very well-known legion of people. For some reason, everybody in every community knows about Friday the 13th and Jason. So again, it's a very humbling experience, and I wouldn't be here without the fans, you, our listeners. So it's always remember where you come from, I say, and sometimes it's luck, I tell people, fortune, but you know what? You try hard, you fail. You try hard again, you may fail. You're going to keep trying. Eventually, you're going to succeed, or you're going to try something different, and you're going to succeed. Not everybody's meant to be number one, I tell it. Not everybody's meant to be an NBA basketball player. Doesn't mean you're not a great individual. Doesn't mean you're not a great person. It just means you got to find something that you're doing that you're passionate about and that you can support your family over.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice, too, for everybody. And thank you so much. I'm going to give one more question, if that's okay, because I know I'm kind of fanboying over here, but so if there is, I know that your intent was never to go out and act, and you've had such a great career outside of acting, but when you look back, is there another maybe iconic character you'd look back and you say, I would have liked to give that one a try too?
Well, in this time frame where we're talking about, I wish I could have used, and I thought about it, but there wasn't actually a management for this type. There were stunt men, stunt women, actors, actresses. They're all different. But if we did it again, and with my quality, my size, it would have been fun to get a call a year later and go play Michael Myers, and then get a call later and go play Leatherface. Kind of like in the Universal Horror, you start looking at Lon Chaney Jr., they started playing all the different characters. They also did all their own makeup because they were so talented. But wouldn't it have been cool that anytime they wanted a monster, Darth Vader, let's call CJ, he doesn't mind wearing a mask. He's physically commanding, but he doesn't care if you see his face. He wants to play a character that is menacing and people look at. And you start seeing the Predator, Alien. I think that would have been cool to be able to dominate that window of playing monsters even today. Bigfoot. I'll be a Bigfoot. Listen, this face is ugly, but I got the physical structure that I can do the rest. So I don't mind wearing prosthetics. I don't mind doing the stunts. So it would have been nice if that would have been opportunities in those days. But you have to realize those jobs were just open here and there for stunt men or women to come in and do them. But the principals were always the people who showed their face. And now here we are, 3 decades later, talking about things differently. You may know Ted White, of course, who's about 94. Great man, icon. It's interesting because Ted played Jason in Part 4. He did not, nor did he want his name on the credits. However, when I see him at a convention several years ago, and it's been about 3 years since I've seen him, he would talk on a panel that, I've done over 100 movies. I've worked with everybody from Clark Gable to John Wayne, and they only remember me for Jason. Weird. This man who's got this status, who's been around, but they remember him for Jason. And you know what? He's very proud that he was one of the Jasons. So I'm very blessed to be around people of that character. Derek Mears, Kane Hodder, of course, and you start looking at Ari. We've lost a couple people, Richard and Steve Dash, over the last few years. And you start going, wow, this is kind of an elite group of folks. There are 7 of us still alive that are the principals of it, and we've lost 2 to health.
Yeah, I know it's sad, but it's something they can never take away from you.
Correct.
It's an icon. And again, like I can only gush over Part 6 so much because it's so amazing. You guys you revitalized the franchise that lasted, about 10 years ago the last movie came out, and the video game is iconic, and you're in there. Your image is in there. So that's
the interesting thing is the black hockey mask has become extremely popular.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because of the video games.
Yep. And
it's interesting because people like the Part 6 character because of all the weaponry. I call it the Batman utility belt that they can use when they're doing their videos.
Yeah, and you're like the first one too. Like I want to say, like with the machete, that really kind of iconized him with the machete. He's known because for the first 5 films, like they were used a lot of different things. It wasn't just the machete. But in that 6th movie, the machete was like the go-to, and you have an iconic image of you holding it, traveling and killing with it. So it's
I'll always remember I got to kill 18 people. I didn't go to jail. It's kind of like living in California.
Yeah, geez, right now I don't miss it. I'll tell you that much. I did love California, but I don't miss it. I love Virginia. I love the green. But and you're in Montana now, which is probably I see on that show Yellowstone, and I'm like, my wife and I are just like, let's move there. We just need to move there.
It's a great show. I've watched it. It's a Paramount, of course, on Paramount Network. I believe they're done shooting for next season already, but next year when they start shooting or auditioning for different small parts here and there, I'll send my my headshot, and you never know. It'd be nice to do something, even if it's small, even if I'm just a rancher out there, or a brute or a biker or whatever there may be. It would be fun. They shoot about 100 miles from me, Bozeman area, which is the middle of Montana. But it's a great show. It just got a great core value to it. And the actors and actresses, the principals are amazing. They do a great job.
Yeah, and that would be so great to see you on it too. Oh, yes, please do that. That would be amazing.
Well, now if they need somebody older, I can grow a full beard. So, the nice thing is it's backwoods. Who knows what's in those woods out there in Montana? Back trappers and stuff that could be inputted. However, don't forget, I ran casino resorts for 25 years as an executive. So there is some lenience towards casino opportunity with the chairman and the tribal council. So again, if they decided they want a suit and tie, I still have a couple left, suit and ties. I didn't get rid of all of them.
Yeah, you got to keep on. You got to hold on to one or two of them. Absolutely. Oh man, that would be so.
Well,
awesome.
You have to realize I kept 2. I kept a black one for funerals and a dark blue one for looking good.
I just kept the black one. My wife, I'm sure, will make me get another one at some point. But yeah, this is so awesome. Oh my God, CJ Graham, thank you so much for being on the show. This was so amazing. Do you have anything going on right now that you want to promote, or?
Well, I'll tell you, if anybody, we haven't been able to make the convention. So if anybody was looking for any signed memorabilia, if you don't mind me plugging it, you could go to jason6.com, and you can see all the different photos and machetes and hockey masks that can be purchased and mailed to you. What I do is I get them, you pay for them. I do a picture of me signing them so you have your wealth, and I send it to your email, and then I mail the packages out. I just sent a machete out yesterday. A couple machetes last week and a mask the week before that. And I got a picture going out tomorrow. So at least it's a connectivity with the fans for now until they get to see me at a convention. a lot of times the fans can't make conventions. They're expensive, number one, to be fair. Sometimes you have to travel to a major city and you may not have the accessibility. But we have fans out there, so by using the website, at least I can reach out, touch them, and get them an item that's autographed for their wall, for their office, for Christmas presents. But might be a little late for Christmas, but for a different opportunity. So the first convention that we'll be doing in 2021, provided everything goes smoothly with the virus and the vaccines, will be the last weekend of February in Atlanta, Georgia. We'll be doing Days of the Dead, and I'll be doing a full wardrobe opportunity there.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, and we're definitely going to plug it. It's going to be on the descriptions of all our videos and on our social media. We'll absolutely put that up and make sure everybody knows about it.
Yeah, and, we do have a lot of conventions that lapsed over to next year. I've already agreed to do Monster Mania in New Jersey, which is in Cherry Hill, and Texas Frightmare, of course, in Texas next year on top of others. So all the conventions are really trying to get them lined up, but everything really depends. We have to worry about health. And, we've lost 250,000 people here. It's not a laughing matter. We have to do what we have to do. And, people feel confident we'll get out there and do them. We're going to have to change our way of life. That's no doubt, regardless of vaccine. So normal is not normal anymore. So we'll see how it looks next year.
Yeah, no, hopefully I'll get to meet you in person at Monster Mania, because that's when I go to. I know Dave well, and yeah, that's a great convention. So. Dave
Hagen, Monster Mania creator and promoter, great man. Monster Mania is in New Jersey. It's in Cherry Hill, and he also does one up in Baltimore. Very honorable man, and I have a lot of respect and admiration for what he's created over these years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's done something fantastic, and he's very charitable with it and everything. So, kudos to him, and everybody should go check out Monster Mania, especially go to see you. But I do agree with you wholeheartedly. Things are going to be changing, and I'm not making light of it. But would you say that Jason's telling everybody to mask up?
Like I said earlier, you can poke fun at it, but it seems everybody wants to wear a mask now.
Yeah, well, there's definitely one iconic one right behind it that we could all wear. I'll absolutely be for that.
Well, I mean this respectfully. I realize I respect people that have their opinion about wearing a mask. I just feel I wear one, just so you know. I would feel terrible if I got somebody sick. I don't care about myself, so I don't do it because I have the right to not or choose or whatever. I just wear one because I'd feel terrible if I got somebody sick. Yeah. It's okay if I get myself sick, but if I hurt somebody else, I would feel awful. I would feel really, really terrible about that.
That's fantastic to say, and that's great advice as well. And hopefully everybody takes that. And I do the same. And I am an advocate for wearing a mask at the very least, like try and keep other people safe. That's the key. I don't want.
It's not a big deal. Put the friggin' mask on. Who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again so much for being on the show. Yes, we're going to have everything. We're going to make sure to go to the website. We're going to have it up on all of our social media, on the descriptions below, everybody, so you can check it out. I am the Scene Snob from thescenesnobs.com. Thank you so much for watching, and just hit that like and subscribe button, and you can listen to this as a podcast or watch it as a video. So thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.